right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and skip that intro because we have too much to unpack. Joining me live tonight is the one and only Miss Arlene. If you know her, she is one of the most proactive voices of the Who Dat Nation on Twitter. I ran into her as of, I say, a couple months ago. She is a very, very sweet lady. I can't wait to get into everything. But before we do, good evening, Who Dat. How are y'all doing? It was a great game for the Saints today. And Taysom Hill, his first official NFL start, comes away with a W. 18 out of 23, 233 yards, 10 rushes for 51 yards. It leads the team with 2 touchdowns. Congratulations to Taysom Hill. Whenever you see this, you know the state of black and gold is here to support you all the way. Now, Miss Arlene, please introduce yourself and let the people of our chat know what you do for a living.
All right. Thank you. And thank you so much for asking me to be your guest tonight. I'm so honored. So my name is Arlene. I grew up in Iota, Louisiana. If anybody knows where that is, it's between Crowley and Eunice. I live now in Houston. So I'm in the middle of Texans and Cowboys land. But I used to be a psychotherapist for many years. Then I raised my children, and now I'm a life coach. And I see people from all ages, teenagers to older adults. And that's what I do.
Yeah, I'm going to have her site linked down in the description below after this stream. You guys make sure to go check it out. If you guys know anybody or if you're in need of some support, I highly recommend you check out Miss Arlene. She is a lifesaver. I may even need to check her out at some point because God knows these things are going to give me going to stress me out come postseason. I'm going to have to keep that link saved. But speaking of our Saints, what a game. You know, there was a lot of questions about Taysom Hill. Can he make sound decisions? Can he use his legs when he needs to? Can he throw the ball? And I think he answered a lot of that today. But we have to start with the Saints defense. Who did you see on the Saints defense that stood out to you the most in its dominating performance of 8 sacks?
Loved Hendrickson. Loved Hendrickson's play today. That was amazing.
Without a doubt, Trey Henderson leading the team and possibly the NFL with 9.5 sacks. So Myles Garrett had a quiet day. It really speaks to the fortitude and the level of the Saints coaching staff for a player that's riddled with injuries coming into his 4th year, and now he's in contention to lead the team and the league and stats come the end of the regular season. Shout out to Trey Hendrickson. With Quan Alexander being the recent addition to the Saints linebacker core, there's been a surge of energy, a surge of charisma that we haven't seen out of this linebacker core in a long time, especially out of Demario Davis. Back-to-back dominating performances. Do you believe that Quan Alexander can be this linebacker for the future and being this tandem with Demario Davis?
You know, why can't he? We're just seeing him for 2 games now. I was sorry to see Anzalone take a back seat because I was like looking at Thor and his flowing locks. However, you know, the dynamic duo between Davis and Quan is so much fun to watch. They're powerful. They bring so much energy, and wow, they vibe together well.
I apologize. That was my grandmother. I had to let her know I'm in the middle of a podcast. But I agree. I mean, if he can maintain his health, because he did go down with a minor injury, albeit he did come out. If he can maintain that health, I do believe he'll want to stay for the New Orleans Saints and possibly restructure that contract. Meanwhile, the 49ers are drawing the short end of the stick with Kiko Alonso remaining on the PUP list. So shouts out to Morpheus Loomis before we get into our next question here. In the Saints offense, starting with Alvin Kamara, he had a little bit of a quiet game. We saw a little bit more of Latavius Murray in the second half. Now, there's a lot of speculation on some say it's because of the foot injury he sustained last week against the 49ers. I believe it's because you're playing a familiar opponent in the Atlanta Falcons, who know what kind of dangers Alvin Kamara poses when he's on the field. So I ask you, Miss Arlene, do you credit more the Atlanta defense using their best resources to contain Alvin Kamara, or is it really a foot injury?
I think honestly it's got to be a little bit of both, because Kamara vibes at a high level at all times, and we saw a couple of his runs, and he had a touchdown run, right? And he just glides in, and he's amazing. But he wasn't quite the Kamara we're used to seeing. I think they game planned for him because he always gives them fits, and it reminds me of last season when he had that injury and people were saying he's not the same, he got paid, he's not the same, but he was injured. So I think we have to take into consideration that he wasn't 100%, and thankfully we had other people step up.
Yeah, one of those people is definitely Michael Thomas, who had a resurgence of a game today with over 100 yards and receptions. Didn't come away with a touchdown, but his presence was definitely felt on this much needed receiving line. Speaking of receivers, Emmanuel Sanders could have been that second player of over 100 yards if that touchdown pass wasn't called back by Eric McCoy. That one hurt my soul, and I know it hurt the soul of the rest of the Who Dat Nation. But in terms of other than that, this Saints offense didn't look like it didn't lose a beat after the first quarter. But knowing Taysom Hill, there's definitely some plays he'd want back, especially that first down run that ended up in a fumble. So aside from obvious ball handle, like ball security, what kind of improvements do you see him making come next week against the Denver Broncos?
Taysom?
Yes, ma'am.
He'll have more confidence for sure. I think he had first half jitters, and then he got in a groove, and he seemed to do very well. So he'll have more confidence. The team will have more confidence around him, and I think Sean's gonna drop some really fine plays for him. I think just confidence. He has the skills. He has the skills. He's been around for a long time. So I think it's just looking for him to get more confidence, develop more synergy with his receivers so he can continue with those long passes. And the world is his oyster right now, isn't it?
Yeah, and confidence is riding high with him right now, coming off of the performance he had and making a lot of everybody in Who Dat Nation eat crows, which makes me wonder why everybody was so quick to write off Taysom Hill. I understand Jameis Winston now. I will go on record and say I was one of the people who was pro Jameis Winston, but as I've said, I may have been pro Jameis Winston, but that doesn't mean I was anti Taysom Hill. I would have supported either quarterback that would have been named under center. It really mind boggles me that everybody in the Who Dat Nation just doesn't want to rally behind Sean Payton's choices, even though he's almost always on the mark when he makes the final call. So I'm questioning what is it about our fan base that just doesn't seem to trust anybody? Is it because of prior instances in the postseason? Is it because he's not Drew Brees? What's going on in our fan base, do you think?
Well, that's a loaded question, and there's so many answers. Some that are easy to talk about, others not so easy to talk about. I think one, Taysom has been kind of inconsistent when he has taken reps at quarterback. Two, Jameis has a history with the playing in the NFL, albeit it's been interesting. He's been semi-successful, let's say. And the thing is, and I think what Sean did mention is that one, he did assure Taysom that if something happened with Drew, he'd get the start, and he went and he stayed with his word, and you got to respect Sean for that. And the other thing, when we looked at Teddy coming in last year, Teddy had 2 training camps with the Saints, and Jameis had. I mean, we didn't even have a real training camp this year, really. So Taysom had more experience with the team. So I'm thinking it was those two things: the fact that Sean assured him he would get to start, and just the experience with the Saints.
I can definitely understand that point. I mean, I don't really hate the Who Dat Nation. I just question them from time to time. I mean, this team is built on adversity. It's always been that next man up mentality for this team and this coaching staff, and it's seen it produce results. So when I see stuff like that, it really just hurts my heart. And I know Taysom Hill is probably looking at this stuff. Yeah, he goes on record and say he ignores and he focuses in. Now, kudos to him. He's maintaining focus, having some sort of tunnel vision, as he went on interview and say earlier this afternoon to say. But you have to. I honestly wonder if it's nagging him in the back of his mind that he doesn't have the full support of the entire Who Dat Nation. Now, speaking of the rest of this offense, we touched on Latavius Murray, we touched on Alvin Kamara, but a person who I was hoping to touch on to be a big improvement was Jared Cook, but he didn't have that. For the past 3 weeks, we've seen him kind of struggle, and it's been mostly noted ever since the fumble in Chicago, the first down drop in Chicago, and it's been carrying on ever since. During an interview, not this week, but last week, prior to the 49ers game, he just looked like he didn't have any kind of energy. He just looked really tired. So I'm concerned for Jared Cook. What are your thoughts on Jared Cook and his struggles in trying to get involved in the Saints offense?
That's a good question, and I wish I knew. He hasn't, had a long history with us, and he's a quiet player. He's not someone that's going to make a lot of noise and you'll know a whole lot about. He seems very private. Whether or not that fumble messed with his mind, I tend to doubt it. Again, these are professionals. I wish I had the answer to that. I really don't know. One thing I do want to touch on that you were talking about Taysom and not having the support of the Who Dat Nation. I'm thinking now he might. Twitter seems very supportive of him. The naysayers are saying, well, he just played the Falcons. We'll see. Well, we'll play Denver next week. It's good that he has Denver and the Falcons to get some confidence. But, you can't please everybody. Sean never pleases everybody. You send in Drew and Drew passes, well, he should have run. I think that's just a sports fan. Monday morning quarterbacks, Sunday morning quarterbacks. I think it's just the nature of people and human beings. It goes with every fan base, too. It's not just us. You see the Texans. You want a hot mess, listen to Texans radio. That's crazy.
True that, Miss Arlene. Speaking of talent, even though Jared Cook is having something of a struggling season, a tight end that is standing out is Adam Troutman. Little by little, we see him continuing to step up where Jared Cook is falling short. And on top of that, Taysom Hill is filling in. So far, so good in terms of Drew Brees. So I'm kind of confident on life post Brees. I really am. If Taysom Hill's named the future, probably for the next, maybe 10 seasons, or Jared Cook possibly leaving come this next offseason, the future is bright. And what kind of Saints future do you see post Brees?
That's such a good topic and a good question, because at the beginning of the year, when people were thinking this might be Drew's last season, I think people were pretty sad and feeling very dejected about, it's going to be the dark times again. But I think today gave us some light at the end of the tunnel. Having someone like Troutman to light up the offense is fabulous. Young, he's developing great so far. So far, the future looks good, barring injuries. And, speaking of injuries, God bless Joe Burrow. I can't believe that happened, but their O-line. So anyway, that's another story. But barring injuries, with our defense playing and Alvin and Mike being on the team and being paid, it looks pretty bright, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. But I'm also kind of scared at the same time. The cap hit's going way down next offseason. So I know a lot of players are going to be cut. I just hope it's not too valuable a player, such as Trey Hendrickson. He's going to be a free agent next offseason. if he wants to stay, maybe Morpheus Loomis can find a way to extend him. They locked up Demario Davis for the next 3 years. I'm happy for that. They locked up David Onyemata, Andrews Pete, who's had a really good season so far. Prior to going out, was what I'm hearing is a concussion. Traquan Smith is having something of a dependable year. Not sure if it's with an extension, but he's definitely playing like he wants to stay. And this man's tough. He's a tough dude. He went out from 49ers with a concussion. He went out earlier today with what looked like a hamstring or a calf injury. This guy is tough to be able to come back from all that within a week. So shout out to Trey Hendrickson. Now, there's so much I want to talk about, but I want to save more of it for my final thoughts tomorrow. Do you have anything you want to say to our audience? Anything you want to promote? Feel free.
All right, I appreciate that. I wanted to talk about Lattimore, if you have a few minutes, and because he's going to want to get paid next year, and I'm wondering about your thoughts about do we pay Lattimore? Has he had the type of year that we're going to write a big check for him?
That's an excellent question. That's a question. That's a topic I'm definitely going to be the main highlight of discussion for tomorrow's final thoughts. But Marshawn Lattimore, he's kind of looking like Andrews Pete did last season in terms of injuries. That is. Now we know he's a dependable player. You can count on him to make that play in big time moments when you need him. But other than injuries that's been plaguing him so far this 2020 season, it looks like he's not all there. To put it in another way, we all know he plays down to his competition. Mm-hmm. So that's another area of concern for Marshawn Lattimore. If he can clean that up and maintain his health for the rest of this season, in this final stretch of games, especially up against Kansas City, that's a big game to make your mark on if you want to have a contract, a extension worthy contract. Marshawn Lattimore's got to get right. So far, Patrick Robinson is outplaying him. Patrick Robinson already has 2 INTs on the year. Marshawn Lattimore only one. I think only a handful of pass deflections on the year. This is kind of like one of Marshawn Lattimore's low years since 2017, and that's saying a lot for a player that's coming out of Ohio State with so much promise, being compared to the likes of Tre'Davious White, Jair Alexander from the Packers, Jalen Ramsey on the Rams. He's having a breakout season. Marshawn Lattimore's potential is out there with that kind of that corner group. So there's a chance that Morpheus Loomis and the Saints might extend him, but it's really on Marshawn Lattimore if he can maintain his health and play up to that potential.
Mm-hmm. We need to have him just against Mike Evans every game, and I think we'll see him live up to his potential.
That is facts. For everybody that's joining in, this is Miss Arlene. She is a sweetheart of a woman. She is a person who I'm going to link her products, her website in the description after this podcast. Miss Arlene, do you have any final thoughts, comments, concerns, or you want to promote anything to our audience before I let you go?
Okay, well, thank you. First of all, thank you for having me on. It's an honor, and I'm so glad that we get to talk after a big, exciting win of our rivals, the Falcons. And for those of you who wonder, what does a life coach do? A life coach works with a number of people to help them reach their potential. We're talking about potential. And I work with teenagers who have difficulty with virtual classes, anxiety, people who are having trouble finding true love and relationships, setting boundaries with family members and friends, and just a host of all things. I won't work with someone who is suicidal or who has some mental health issues that are best served by a psychotherapist. But I would be glad to talk with anyone who's curious, and I will offer a consultation for 10 to 20 minutes so we could talk about how life coaching might benefit you or someone in your family.
Yeah, this is Miss Arlene. I will also link her Twitter handle in the comments pinned at the top as well in the description below. Y'all go show her some love, show her some support. Being a life coach is not easy. I know because I give my over in Ocean Springs a hard time as it is. So the fact that she's touching people's hearts, she's giving people encouragement. That goes really undervalued in most places. So Miss Arlene, thank you for what you do. Thank you for your hard work. As always, you know me on Twitter. We're always going to have these Saints talks. I'm happy to talk shop with you. For everybody else, tomorrow I will make sure to post the time on Twitter, so y'all make sure you're looking for that. We're going to be talking more about this Marshawn Lattimore and Jared Cook concerns. So what kind of issues do you think that they have going on? Why they're not contributing as much as we hope them to? But that's it. That's all. Thank you to Miss Arlene for coming out. Thank you to everybody who tuned in to watch, even if it was for just a minute. You guys help me support this young podcast of mine grow in the right direction. As always, we bleed black and gold until we are dead and cold. From me and Miss Arlene, we will see you guys soon on Twitter, hopefully. Goodbye.